My grandpa's never been one to take nonsense from anybody, especially not the so-called HOA cops who patrol our neighborhood as if they're law enforcement. They aren't police. They're just a handful of overzealous board members with clipboards and too much free time. Grandpa's property sat on the edge of the subdivision and was technically grandfathered in when the HOA was formed. That meant his junkyard rows of old cars, scrap metal, and a glorious collection of antique parts was completely legal, though the HOA hated it. For years, Karen, the head of the HOA, had tried to get rid of the junkyard. She claimed it was unsightly and a safety hazard, but the county records clearly showed it was permitted. Grandpa ignored their letters and threats, knowing they couldn't touch him. But one Saturday, the HOA enforcers took things too far. While Grandpa and I were inside the garage sorting through some carburetors, we heard the crunch of gravel. Two shiny SUVs, both with magnetic HOA decals slapped on the side, rolled straight through the front gate. They hadn't knocked, hadn't called, and sure as daylight hadn't brought a warrant. They parked right in the middle of the yard like they owned the place, and 4 board members climbed out, barking orders and snapping photos of every pile of scrap. Grandpa's face turned red, the kind of red that meant trouble. He marched outside, telling them they were trespassing and had no authority here. One of the men waved his clipboard and told Grandpa they were confiscating evidence for HOA violations. That was the last straw, without another word. Grandpa walked over to his massive industrial shredder, a beast of a machine he used to process scrap metal. While the board members were still shouting, Grandpa fired up the shredder, the engine roaring like thunder. Then, with the calmest expression I'd ever seen, he hopped into one of their SUVs still in the ignition. Door wide opened, drove it 10 feet forward. Straight into the shredder's hungry jaws, the sound of metal. Grinding filled the air as the machine chewed through the SUV like it was tinfoil. The board members screamed, running in circles, one of them yelling to call the cops. By the time the first SUVs who'd disappeared into the shredder, they were scrambling back into the second vehicle and tearing out of the yard. The sheriff arrived later, and after hearing the story and confirming Grandpa's right to his property, he let Grandpa off with nothing more than a warning about making a point too dramatically. The HOA, however, had a totaled SUV on their hands, and a lesson they wouldn't soon forget. From that day on, not a single HOA cop has dared step foot on Grandpa's junkyard again.